In this lesson, we're going to learn how to add a structural plan and add structural columns to our model. We can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way. As you can see in the east wing of our model, we have a pretty straightforward grid system until you get to the radial entry area. When you're placing columns, you can literally pick a window around the model and snap in all your columns at once, or you can place them individually. Columns, like walls, know their base level and their top level. They also know their grid locations. There's a lot of database work being done behind the scenes for this to happen. The objective of this exercise is to first create a structural plan, then we'll place our columns in our model and create column offsets for a 45-degree central corridor configuration and look around for some columns that may be running through some doorways. Open the file you've been working on or open the file called Chapter 9 and follow along. As I zoom into the model, here's where we're going to place our columns. They're all on grid lines. We move these columns up 4 feet, and as we select them, we'll see that they actually have offsets, column location D3, and it's literally offset 4 feet. That's a really great way to keep track of stuff, letting Revit do it. We have a couple out here, some around the radius, and one out here for a canopy. The first thing we need to do is make a structural plan. If you go to the View tab, then go to Plan Views, let's go to Structural Plan. Hold down your Control key and select Level 1 and Level 2. Notice that we have structural plans, but we just don't have a Level 1 and Level 2. Revit understands that and allows us to make new structural plans for Level 1 and Level 2. Click OK. Let's go down to Structural Plan Level 1. Let's zoom in our corner here. Let's change our detail level to Fine. Let's start adding some columns. On the Structure tab, click the Column button. Under Properties, click the drop-down to see if we have the column we want. And we don't, so we can load them as we're placing them. On the Mode panel, click Load Family. Let's scroll down till we find Structural Columns. Let's go to Steel. Let's grab an HSS Hollow Structure section. The way columns load is their types are in a dialog first. That way, if you load one family, you're not loading every single type of that family. With columns, there's quite a few types of families. We're going to scroll down until we find HSS 6x6 by 5/8. Then we're going to select it. Click OK. On the options bar, let's make sure the height is set for roof. Let's come to the radial portion. Let's start adding columns. I'm going to add a column at this grid intersection here. I'm going to add one at this grid intersection here. Let's go over to 2.1. Before we add this, hover over the intersection and hit the space bar once, and you'll see that it'll rotate that column into the orientation that you need it. Column line 3, you can do the same thing. Add one to column line 4. 4.9, hit the space bar. Again with the space bar. Let's add 2 more into the corridor area here. Let's add one on grid G1. Let's add one on G6. Go ahead and hit escape a couple times. Now what we're going to do is add columns to the entire area. On the Structure tab, click the Column button. For multiple, let's go at grids. Put your cursor between column line F and G, hold down your pick button, and drag window all the way down into this area. Click the Finish button, hit Escape a couple times, and you just added columns to the entire model. But before we trust it, why don't we find some columns and remove them? Certainly here's an errant column. Go ahead and select it and delete it. So as you can see, it's a very quick way to add columns, but it also can get you in trouble. So just make sure you go through the entire model and find out if you have any columns and door openings. I know that these columns want to be moved up 4 feet. Go ahead and pick a window around these two columns. Click the Move button. Pick a base point here and move them up 4 feet. Move these two columns down 4 feet. And they're out of the way. Let's move this column up till it hits the center line of that wall. Then hit Escape a couple times. This one was pretty straightforward. Your structural consultant may be the only one adding columns to a model, but now you know how to do it as well.